A well-behaved woman is trim and proper. Chores always done, not a hair out of place. When the husband comes home, she greets him with a smile.
I'm sorry, what the fuck?
Are you tired of Hitler?
I feel no shame.
Okay, one liar as a kid can find another liar.
I want that stricken from the record.
How else is she gonna learn if she doesn't have a feather?
I can go fuck in the big house.
You're a mess, girl. I am here to audition for Babysitters Club extras. I brought my own hammer.
Welcome back to another episode of Well-Behaved Women. We have Pippin, the mascot doggy.
Pod Dog is here.
The pod dog.
And the snoring Chew.
And Chewy is taking a nice little nap.
Oh yeah, he's
Bubba.
an old dog and he
You're
takes
sweet.
old man snores.
But your kisses stink.
Yes, your kisses smell so bad. Don't let him... Pippin, get down.
No.
Come on.
No.
You're being very inconvenient for the pod world. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's all right. All right. So, every week, Lauren...
Now that we've had this really long
long intro. So every week, Lauren brings us a story of a woman notable from history. And usually I don't know who she is, but this week we're in a part 2.
Ooh.
So I do know who we're speaking about. Miriam Makeba.
Makeba. Uh-huh.
I knew I'd botch it.
That's all right.
Yeah.
When last we left Miriam,
Previously on South Africa's racist history.
she has gotten into singing.
Yes.
She has gotten her breakout song, and then she has
Yes.
translated it into English.
Yes, girl.
She's in a play, she's on a movie, she does international touring, and she's living in New York and performing for jazz legends that she has admired her entire life.
Mm-hmm.
That have, the records have been sitting on her shelf growing up, and now she's singing in front of them.
That'd be like us going to go sing in front of Britney Spears. Or like...
That would probably be like you going to go sing in front of Britney Spears.
Okay, well, who are you singing in front of?
I'm not singing in front of anyone.
Jesus?
This is the people that I sing for because I'm going to be out of tune forever.
Oh.
I don't sing in front of people.
Just me? Is it just me?
Yes.
Not even Gary?
No, I mean, I'll sing for Gary, but it's not like a serious sing. It's like we're karaokeing in the car, and I don't care if I'm out of tune singing.
Yeah, none of us are singing seriously here. The only song I can sing seriously is maybe Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers.
The only time I take my vocals seriously is when I am in the shower and I am alone in the home.
Oh, when I'm in my car.
And then I am I'm at a concert and I am rocking it.
Oh, no,
I'm belting.
Not even on stage in my mind. I'm still critiquing myself. I'm my own singing coach.
Nope, that's the one time I know I can let my vocal cords go and really just belt it out.
And that's when I'm driving and I'm alone.
Oh, yeah, I can do it in the car, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The car, sure. I just feel like I can sing in the car.
Everyone feels like they can sing in the car. You know why? You're not hearing yourself sing in the car. You're harmonizing or you're matching a tune with something else.
Yeah.
That's around you. And so if you are out of tune at some point,
I can correct it.
You can, and you can also hear it less. Because you're hearing them singing, not you singing. You're not hearing your
I
own
turned the
voice.
volume down so I can hear both.
Oh, you do I'm rehearsing for my big performance.
Essentially.
I love that. Okay.
I'm rehearsing every day in my car, guys. My album comes out in the year 3022 because I am not releasing it now.
Anyway, so our famous singer Miriam has been on tour. She's in New York, and in March of 1960, the Sharpeville massacre occurs.
Yeah.
Protesters had rocks, police had rifles and submachine guns, 69 people were killed that day, including 10 children. And I'm just going to go over that backlash one more time.
Yeah.
And then...
I got chills.
Yep. Another 180 were injured, including 19 children.
Oh.
The backlash was immediate and wide-sweeping. Black people from all over the nation protested. By the 30th of March, a state of emergency had been called and 18,000 people were detained.
Wow.
Our old buddy Nelson Mandela was one of them. Many white people in the nation were disgusted and horrified, and internationally the slaughter garnered a ton of attention, inspiring protests and marches around the world. In 2 days, the UN Security Council had introduced and voted into effect Resolution 134, which basically recognized that the government organization of South Africa was designed so that shit like this would happen again and again and again and again. And it called for the abandonment of apartheid.
Yeah, rightfully fucking so.
That was where we left off last episode.
Yes.
The South African government basically doubled down at this point.
So, like what we're seeing, even current times with Netanyahu, we're heading in that direction.
The very next year, they pulled away from the Commonwealth and increasingly isolated themselves from their allies, their neighbors, and anyone who would go against their racist policies and laws.
Yeah.
Of course, now March 21st is commemorated.
Sorry, my ADHD brain.
Commemorated. It's
sorry.
okay. March 21st is South African Human Rights Day. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And when Mandela signed into law the Constitution of South Africa in 1996, he chose Sharpeville as the site.
Ah, very poignant.
Yes, exactly. But back when the massacre happened, Christina, Miriam's mother, was involved.
Really?
And she died shortly after.
No.
In fact, at least 2 of Miriam's family members died during this protest and the ensuing chaos.
Oh. Well,
go ahead.
Go on, Christina, for being part of the protest and standing up for, her human rights and everyone else's, but she died.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, like, literally, these are hard conversations to have because people are dying for their rights and
basic human rights.
I cannot imagine dying for a single cause. I've never loved something enough that I would die for it. I mean, other than like people in my life,
We haven't had to yet. I would absolutely be willing to put myself in situations like that for things like Roe v. Wade being reestablished.
Yeah.
And like, it's not canonized. What's it called when they like put it in stone? They just did it in Ireland, I think.
Enshrined in the Constitution?
Enshrined, I think. In France. I think it was France.
Yeah.
Basically,
at that. It's in the Constitution now.
I want to be living in France now. I mean, it's not it. I mean, I've always wanted.
New for you?
No, not really. But this is just another great reason. We become a French podcast.
We miss y'all.
Oh, they would hate us over there. Maybe we shouldn't
they would
go
totally
to France.
Hate us over there.
They would. I don't think we should go now.
So 2 of Miriam's family members died. She tried to go back and be with her family for the funeral of Christina, and she wanted to see her daughter Bongi for the first time in a few months.
Yeah,
she'd literally been married and divorced in the time since she'd last seen her daughter.
So don't even have to tell her about it at that point. You're just
it's like
that's mommy's secret.
Don't worry about it.
That's mommy's secret.
Surprise stepdad. It was like
I'll tell you when you're 21, and it'll be a real fun surprise.
But it was then that she realized South Africa had a real bone to pick with her. While she was out of the country, they had canceled her South African passport.
Oh.
She was absolutely devastated, and it also made it much harder for her to get her daughter back.
Oh my God. Okay.
She had to stay in New York. That was her life now. Like, she's there. She can't go back for her mom's funeral. She can't go visit any of her family.
Can she even write to her daughter?
She can write to her daughter, but she wasn't able to be back in the country with her.
And how old, I guess, would her daughter have been?
So Bongi joined her in New York a few months later, and she was 9 years old at the time.
Oh, okay. So still very young.
Yes. So we had talked a little bit about her music, and for the most part, she'd really, up to this point, made a effort to stay away from politics.
Yeah.
She just wanted to choose her songs carefully, African folk songs, covers of Southern songs, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
She didn't want to make any waves. But when her fame grew, so did her influence. And when they took away the passport.
Yeah.
And they basically said, you're not welcome home
And
anymore.
you can't get your daughter.
Yeah, she was like, fuck it.
Yeah, well, now you got to get political. 'Cause
Yeah.
you poked the mama bear inside.
Yeah, the shackles are off now. So she's like, let's fucking do this. So she started speaking out.
Uh-huh.
She felt that responsibility to do it as someone who had been able to escape the world before she lost her life to it, which is something that those 69 people had never been afforded, nor had countless Black African people before them.
Yeah.
This was a turning point for her, openly criticizing the minority white government of South Africa that she had been from. But it didn't deter her fans. In fact, it attracted them. So at the time, there was a record company called RCA Victor, and they signed her on as a singer. And they couldn't do it right away because technically she was in contract with a company called Galatone Records in South Africa.
Uh-oh.
She wasn't legally allowed to go back to South Africa and record there.
Yeah.
So that contract was pretty pointless.
And they didn't have Zoom, so she couldn't do it remotely.
Yeah, exactly. So for the release of a basically useless and unenforceable contract, RCA Victor paid Galatone $45,000.
Oh, wow.
Which is $470,000 in today's money.
It's still a hefty
Almost
chunk.
$500,000 just to say we want to release her contract so that we can pay her.
Exactly.
But it also meant that forevermore, any song that she'd recorded under Galatone is gone.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't get royalties for any of it anymore.
No.
But now she can record with RCA Victor, and so her very first album was released in May of 1960.
All right.
Her friend Harry is quite literally instrumental to the success of this self-titled album because his band played the music for her vocals.
Hell yeah.
They didn't want her to focus on the South African identity, so RCA only really allowed her a few songs in her native tongue. And in certain circles, when this album came out, it was wildly popular.
In certain circles.
In certain circles.
Okay.
Right. It wasn't huge, like, nationwide, but for music people that really enjoyed it, like, it spread like wildfire. It was really, really popular.
All right. Critics' choice.
I was practicing this in the bathroom before I came in to record.
Oh.
The most famous song from the album, and the one that most people discovered her from, was uncleverly translated from Konkotwane to the Click Song.
Oh, yeah. That's...
because of the clicks in the song.
It's just called the Click Song.
It is literally called the Click Song.
Wow. They didn't even try.
Time said she was the most exciting new singing voice to appear in many years.
Yeah.
Newsweek said her voice had the smoky tones and delicate phrasing of Ella Fitzgerald and the intimate warmth of Frank Sinatra.
I will definitely second that last one for sure.
Oh, for sure. And in the ears of other jazz musicians, Miriam was skyrocketing into being a name in the world.
Yeah.
We are going to play Konkotwane because she will obviously pronounce it way better than I can.
Yeah, she's so engaging with the audience.
Yeah, she has a lot of stage presence. We get the point.
Yeah.
It's a really good song. The whole thing is a bop.
The
for
beat
sure.
is really interesting.
It is super interesting.
I really love like the verse phrasing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's how
cadence.
Yeah, the cadence.
The cadence,
okay.
Like the pattern of speech.
The pattern, yeah.
The cadence. No, I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah.
All right, so she was basically skyrocketing with this song and others that came out in that same album to being kind of like a cool jazz name in the world. But the U.S. had, as a whole, like had no idea. In the way that like we know, everyone knows who Taylor Swift is, even if we don't listen to her music, we know who Tay-Tay is, right?
Tay-Tay.
Tay-Tay. Unless you knew who Miriam Makeba was, you didn't like... It wasn't as
she wasn't a household name.
Thank
you.
Sorry.
No, we came up with it at the same time.
Anyway, she basically her album didn't really gain a lot of fame or attention like that first one. It did so poorly, in fact, that RCA Victor terminated the contract.
No!
The one they paid $470,000 in today's money for. Yeah.
No.
So in 1962, Harry Belafonte and Miriam were invited to sing for the President of the United States.
Interesting. Who was the president?
At Madison Square Gardens.
Oh, wow.
In May. Miriam and Harry serenaded President John F. Kennedy.
Fun.
Yes, it's that same party where we know a very different birthday song. It's that same one.
Dress?
It's the birthday party, yeah.
The birthday party.
With the dress.
Did they go on before or after, I wonder?
I'm sure they went on before.
Okay.
I think that was probably at the after party.
Oh, okay.
She had enough to drink later on. I don't know. You know what? I don't have any idea.
It would just be interesting.
I would
to know
imagine
how
it was
that night
probably
went.
an earlier performance.
I guess, yeah.
So Miriam wasn't feeling very well, so she left after singing, but John actually really wanted to meet her. So Harry sent a car for her, and they went back and celebrated together. So sometimes she would go out of town for causes that she really believed in. Like I said, this was full-on activism Miriam now.
Yeah.
So the Southern Christian Leadership Conference had a concert benefit, and Miriam performed there.
Excellent.
It was attended by Martin Luther King Jr.
What?
Yeah.
Duh.
And it was called, quote, the event of the year.
Ooh. The event of the year.
Yep. It makes me think of that dude from How I Met Your Mother, where he's like, it's supposed to be the storm of the century, although it is only '09, but maybe the storm of the decade, although it is only January.
Yeah, that's kind of how it feels. Every storm is the storm. Every party is the party.
The party, yeah. So after this event, a small group, including Miriam and MLK, tried to go grab a bite to eat. They were going to go hang out, have a little snack. And because of those lovely little Jim Crow laws that happen all over the South, they were denied entrance, and that led to an impromptu protest in front of the restaurant.
Of course.
That made the news.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was televised.
Okay. Yeah. And what happened after that?
So she was still a new artist entity in the U.S., but internationally she was already pretty well known because she had a reputation in Africa already.
Yeah.
And so she went on a European tour, and the same year she went to Kenya to show her support for Kenya's independence from British rule.
Ooh, Kenya.
So they go to Kenya, and she helps fundraise for their new leader. And once she was done there, she went to testify before a UN special committee against apartheid.
Hell yes.
She spoke on the destructive effects of an inherently racist system.
Yeah.
She requested economic sanctions against the South African government and an arms embargo because likely those arms would go towards killing and mutilating black women and black children.
Yeah. Yep.
South Africa still had feelings about her testimony.
Of course.
So they banned her music in the entire nation of South Africa.
Yeah. Retaliation.
It's like, we talk about like payback's a bitch in the workplace.
Yeah.
And, you and I have talked off air about so many different stories of boss retaliation.
Yeah.
How would you feel if an entire nation was like, nah, fuck you in particular, bitch.
Yeah.
For singing.
Yeah, and your daughter's
and for speaking
in that
out.
country.
And for saying these people are murdering people.
Yeah. I mean, I would feel so guilty if anything happened to anyone in the nation after that, after my testimony. But I mean, it had to be done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't even imagine.
I know.
I cannot put myself in that position. I have never faced anything similar. Like a boss is one thing, but a nation's government is another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her citizenship and any chance she ever would have had to be able to eventually return to her homeland, it was all gone. It was just poof, out. So she became a stateless woman.
I'd feel so lost.
She was not a citizen of South Africa.
Yeah.
She was not a citizen of the U.S. She just floats.
Somebody help me.
Soon after, the nations of Belgium, Algeria, Guinea, and Ghana issued her passports.
Okay.
All of them came to her aid. All of them helped.
Love that.
She was also invited to Ethiopia by the Emperor, Haile Selassie, to perform at the inaugural ball for the Organization of African Unity.
An emperor.
An emperor.
Fuck yeah.
This was an international African cooperative, kind of like the UN.
Yeah.
But just in Africa.
Okay.
And it was disbanded in 2002. But in 1963, it was just getting started.
Right.
And so this was like one of the first kind of things.
Yeah.
So she was the only artist that actually was invited to come and sing.
Wow.
Yeah.
They only wanted her.
They only wanted her.
Ow, that's a nice feeling.
That same year, she also was invited and went to Israel. And sang there.
Interesting.
She really is like, she was getting invited
That's
to
a big
go
deal,
and
though.
perform and speak at a lot of things, and she testified in a lot of these committees. She'd made friends with other Black Africans who'd come to New York for new opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1963, she met a man named Hugh Masekela, who was also an African exile.
All right.
The two of them lived the lives of Black artists and musicians in the city in the 60s. And they were friends with the likes of Brando, Bacall, Satchmo, Ray Charles, Nina Simone, Cicely Tyson, and even Dizzy Gillespie.
Dizzy Gillespie. Why do I know that name? I think I've heard it, but I don't know who it is.
Very few people actually know where they've heard it, but it's the singer.
Huh.
Soon after terminating her contract, RCA realized the earning potential that they'd let go of. They're like, oh fuck.
All because one album didn't do well.
Yes.
The first one. They only gave her the one shot. You know, it's hard probably.
Does that also maybe sound like some workplaces we've been to?
Oh, yeah. But she was just getting started at the workplace. You know, it was just her.
It was her 60-day review, and she got kicked out.
It's like she had a whole new producing team, probably a whole new band. Everything probably but her changed, so she had to adjust, and it takes a minute. Okay.
Oh yeah. And as it turned out, it was also good timing because in the early 60s in the U.S., an African identity was kind of this new hip thing.
Really?
What? Instead of pushing that away, when they re-signed her, they decided that they'd highlight that African part of her identity.
Oh, now because it's the cool thing.
Oh yeah, we've got this civil rights thing going on. We want to show that we're cool and we're hip and we're with the right crowd, man. So we're gonna highlight her Africanness
to make money
off
of this identity that is forming.
Yes, she was the clicking lady. She's the exotic Black African singer.
The clicking lady.
Yes, literally, she was the lady who did the click song.
The lady who did the click song.
But she also was, connected with a lot of Black Americans who were seeing the same issues in their own lives, reflected in her songs of apartheid and racial segregation.
Make a lot of sense, though. Yes.
Yes, for sure. The second album from RCA Victor came out in 1964, so 4 years later. And it was titled, or 3 or 4 years later, it was titled The World of Miriam Makeba. Her music jumped to the Billboard 200. Mm-hmm. A huge deal for international music at that time. And it wasn't just the top 200. She hit 84 at one point. So she was in the top 100. Yep.
In the 60s? 64?
In 64, yeah.
Wow.
And it was obvious that the reason for the wild popularity of this fairly folksy sounding musician was born of the time that they were living in.
Yeah.
She sang of racial segregation. She sang of oppression. She sang of death and destruction and apartheid in a home that she was no longer allowed to return to. That, and also her, quote, exotic sounding music, because you've heard it, it's impossible not to want to dance to this shit, right?
Right.
It's got a beat.
It has the beat that makes
if you're not wanting to chill out and lay out in a hammock, you're wanting to kind of do some nice swinging moves.
Yeah, I would say her more jazz stuff is hang out in a hammock. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the African folk music, that makes me want to dance, even though I can't. But
Konkotwane was like, it makes you kind of want to hop up and like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, let's do this.
yeah, exactly.
She traveled around Europe. Both, she was performing all over the place, both solo and with other artists, including Harry.
Harry.
He worked with her on adding songs in other languages. So in her discography, she has songs from Latin America, Israel, Europe, and a lot of other African nations.
Okay.
Basically all in her little back pocket. And when she was at a concert in San Francisco, she met a Kenyan student while backstage, and the student taught her this song that would later become a very staple song for Miriam.
Oh, okay.
It was called Malaika.
Oh.
You are the future.
And it is not this.
No, I know. Oh my God, the headpiece.
Malaika, nakupenda malaika, ningekuwa maliwe, ningekuwa dada.
Oh,
right.
yeah. Oh, now I want to be on vacation.
Right. Oh my goodness.
It does. It's kind of a song that makes me feel dreamy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can kind of just like drift into my fantasies.
You really can, yeah, for sure. She also stepped into Black activism.
All right.
She involved herself in anti-apartheid movements, Black consciousness, Black power, and civil rights.
Hell yeah.
She testified before the UN again in 1964.
Wow. I'd be so scared in front of the UN.
This is the second or third time?
I know, but just to go in front of the UN anytime, I'd be like butterflies in my stomach.
Oh, for
I
sure.
forgot how
And
English
she's like,
works.
let's do this. Because again, she urged
True.
strong action, strong sanctions
Yeah.
against South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
She was starting to get famous in the U.S., even by white listeners listening to her.
Wow.
Even by conservative white listeners.
Yeah.
The wide audience she had allowed for a slow emergence of a more, quote, liberal idea that extreme racial discrimination was probably bad.
Yeah. Who'd have thunk it?
Maybe. It's crazy. Even international discrimination was maybe bad. International. I have an international reputation. Do you have an international reputation?
No, mostly just
You've never watched Sherlock, have you?
no.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Cannot. That is okay. I understand why, because you've got ADHD and you would probably lose interest so quickly.
Depending.
But
it
is
just depends.
Such a good show.
I do love mystery.
They are 90-minute mystery
And see, I'm
episodes,
all right
and
with
they're
that.
Incredibly interesting and very detailed. And it's Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman.
Yeah.
They have a episode where Watson is getting married, and
Yeah.
they have his stag party the night before,
Uh-huh.
and they get really fucking hammered, and they're hanging out on the stairs, and
Aw.
Sherlock kind of turns around and mumbling to Watson, and he's like, "I have an international reputation. Do you have an international reputation?"
And then
I know Ash.
if I
Because he knows different types of tobacco ash. It's a whole thing.
Oh.
Anyways, she's testifying, she's speaking out, and she basically just doesn't pull any punches with any of her stances. So she has her values, and she's really like pretty open about the fact that these are her values. And so when she finds out that the same Southern Christian Leadership Conference that she had sang at and supported so many years before was investing in South African companies, she said, quote, now my friend of long-standing supports the country's persecution of my people, and I must find a new idol.
Oh, fuck. Her hero failed her.
Yep. That white
That's
knight
gotta
got
be
knocked off his horse.
rough. How do you like...
He had enough issues going on. I mean,
Right.
I think that was the year that he had his speech, and then 2 years later he died.
True.
In 1965, Miriam and Harry collaborated on an album together. I'm not excusing what he was doing. I'm not excusing their support of South African companies in any way, shape, or form. Sorry, I moved on really quickly
No, that's fine.
without addressing that, but I'm not making excuses for it. It sucks. He shouldn't have done that.
No.
He did lose the support of someone very important.
Yeah.
I just don't think that was on his brain.
Probably not.
That's the only thing I'm saying is
A
I
person
just don't
can
think
only
he was thinking about it.
Yeah, a person can only consider so much at one time.
Yeah, he's busy with other shit. In 1965, Miriam and Harry collaborated on an album together, An Evening with Belafonte Makeba.
Uh-huh.
The album was sharply critical of the South African government.
Ooh, I might have to go get this album.
You can look it up on YouTube.
I will.
It really put the focus on the political plight of Black South Africans. It was another very popular album, and the two went on tour and often performed to sold-out venues.
Hey! That's a friendship that's been going on for a while.
Right?
I love when you find those lifelong friends.
Miriam sang in Swahili, Xhosa, and Sotho. And in 1966, the partners won a Grammy Award for Best Folk Recording for the album.
Woo! She's got a Grammy!
Yeah!
Girl's got a Grammy!
Unfortunately,
Oh.
the next year, the two were recording her 10-year recording of Pata Pata, and they had an argument that ended their professional and personal relationship forever.
No, not a lifelong friend.
Not a lifelong friend. I really wanted them to be lifelong friends,
Same.
but they had a falling
I
out.
wonder what that argument was about.
I think it was just about the recording stuff. The album came out. It was still really wildly popular, but the two never, ever worked together
Yeah,
again.
they're not going on tour for that.
All this to say, though, in the 60s, she was a hit.
Yeah.
She was real popular. And at some point in this first half of the decade, she was diagnosed again with cervical cancer.
Oh, no.
She had to undergo a hysterectomy.
Oh, fuck.
They
That's
got-
no joke. 'Cause
No,
then you
it's
start-
terrible.
Well, I guess if they don't take your ovaries out, you don't start menopause. But your bladder can wander
Yep.
and prolapse.
They got clean margins, and for the second time, Miriam was a cancer survivor.
Hell yeah.
In 1966, Miriam ran back into Stokely Carmichael. This was someone I haven't mentioned before
I was just
in
about
this
to say.
episode, but we're gonna kind of rewind. We're gonna rewind the clock a little bit. So
I'll put a rewind sound in here.
So she'd met this guy after she'd been invited to one of her shows he had been invited to one of her shows by Harry Belafonte.
Okay.
He was an exiled African himself. He wasn't welcome in his own country of Guinea. And he'd been a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and he was a freedom rider under Diane Nash, another civil rights activist we'll definitely cover in her own episode. Miriam and Stokely had really hit it off, and in 1968, they got married.
Aww.
They had met years earlier, and then in 1966, they kind of ran back into each other. It doesn't really seem like a huge deal. She and Hugh weren't really into it anymore, so they got divorced, and she married Stokely. And I think they got divorced the same year.
Okay.
So I think it was just kind of like, you done? Okay, I'm done.
Yeah,
Or,
kind of like,
hey, we're done.
Yeah, I
Let's-
think it's time for us to wake up. I think we're done here.
She also seems to just get married to the men she loves. So
Yeah,
I guess.
you know, if you like it, put a ring on it.
yeah, exactly. Yes.
I'm just saying.
Nope. I love it.
Beepity beep 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 beep. News. Oh, look at his tail.
I know.
Is it news time?
In news. Elsewhere in Black activism.
Elsewhere in Black activism.
A group had formed from the more involved activists.
Okay.
Those who thought that civil rights might not have been moving quite as quickly as it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine why they'd want things to change quicker than they did.
Well, yeah.
No,
Why?
you know what? Progress happened at the pace it needed to.
My name is Karen.
I do not actually feel that way.
I know.
Well, we also fixed racism in a day, right?
Oh my god.
When MLK had a dream speech, you know?
Yet that one speech immediately
speech-
reverberated throughout the universe and fixed everything.
The entire universe, it fixed it in one day. We collectively decided racism is over.
Yeah, I wonder how long it took him to write it.
We don't actually believe that?
No, we do not.
Well, this group didn't believe that either.
Okay.
So they formed in the hopes that their Marxist-Leninist beliefs, combined with the uptick in black activism, could bring about some real change.
Okay, I'm trying to dig through my mind. Who is this group?
You know, it reminds me of the, like, we weren't doing this show together when I covered Emma Goldman, but you've listened to her episodes. They go into her initial kind of like activist idol guy was about propagation by the deed of like, if you want something done, you've got to do it.
Yeah.
You actually have to get stuff done by
Yeah.
actually getting out there yourself and doing it.
If you believe it, you should do it.
Yeah. So this black activist group was called the Black Panthers.
Okay, I wasn't 100% sure about putting them together with the Marxist. I forgot about the whole Marxist idea of things.
Sorry, I hope that was okay. That showed me.
I was thinking.
that showed you.
I had already started thinking, is this the Black Panther
It is,
Party?
yes.
But I wasn't sure, so I was waiting to get all the info.
Yep. So it was created in 1966 by Robert or Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton.
Okay.
They started as a group of armed men exercising their right to open carry rifles as a sort of counter-intimidation tactic in their neighborhoods.
Right.
It was meant to remind the police that people were watching them. And if they started shit in this neighborhood, it wouldn't be ignored.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to
We're not
come
just
into
with
our
stones.
neighborhoods and you're going to bring your guns and your violence and shit, but
Right.
we are also armed and we're watching you
Yeah.
doing shit.
Which I can imagine, like, at this point, they did have a whole period of time. All this time, they've complied. They've complied.
Yep.
Like, you know, we've been taught that the police are supposed to be there to protect us, and they're not. And this is kind of the response here. Like,
Yep.
you don't protect us.
We're showing you what a police state actually looks like
Yeah.
from the other side, too.
Yeah. Like, both sides are going to be armed up at this point. We've got our own Cold War going. Except for it's not that cold because you guys, the police, keep, you know, striking first, killing us in your custody.
Obviously, these movements grew into a lot more, and this group is remembered in some of the same tomes as like terrorist organizations.
Yeah.
Because it did evolve. Partly that was due to some of their later hijinks, right? Hijinks. I'm just gonna call them hijinks. Don't worry about it. We're not getting into a lot of what they're going into. I just got to talk about them for a minute.
We got to get through this.
We got to get through this. Obviously, I don't agree with some of their activism.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give them the best
But I will,
word I can say is hijinks. Shenanigans?
No.
Shenanigans and
Stratagems?
Schemes?
No. Well, no.
Plots?
Because they did some things where it was like setting up schools.
Flim-flams?
Flim-flams.
Bamboozles.
Yeah, I'm sure they loved bamboozles. They're just like, haha, got you.
Anyway, they grew out of basically their reputation.
Yeah.
It just grew out of proportion.
Yeah.
Someone saw them and a bunch of Karens went off
Oh, right.
and spread through the city.
Yeah.
And it was Karens called cops, I think.
Yes.
So the FBI was already pretty anti-civil rights movements by this point. You know,
For
we're in the
sure.
mid-60s.
They were keeping tabs on all the leaders and listening in and all of that.
Yeah. And there were a number of people that were already on their watch list from, you know, for the simple fact they were speaking out against systemic and violent racism, right?
Yep.
We've got MLK, we've got Malcolm X, Huey and Bobby, we've got Stokely Carmichael, all on those lists. So
Yeah.
Miriam's husband is also on this list.
Shit.
And over the course of 3 years, it turned from a peaceful gathering of black men to observe and ensure the peaceful interaction between police and citizen into infighting, torture of members, shootouts, and murder.
Torture?
That's why I said hijinks.
Who's
Yeah.
torturing who?
I'm not going to be getting into that
No, but I
today.
mean, like, is it the FBI?
I think there was both torture within and then torture without
Of
the members.
Black Panther Party
Yes.
or FBI?
Yes,
Okay,
the
so
Black Panther Party.
we're torturing people, potentially, allegedly.
Or they were being tortured.
Or they were being tortured. Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. I'm like, oh shit, they were being tortured.
It also, I mean, infighting, torture of members, shootouts, and murder, I want to say it seems like
People.
maybe there were spying too. Like maybe they were wondering if there were like double agents and shit. I don't know. I can only think of like there's got to be violence on both sides.
Right.
There's probably torture from like, tell me what you know. Like I know you snitched on us, and then also like
that's
the
right.
FBI agents trying to get them to snitch by torture.
Gotcha.
I think there's torture on both sides of that.
I don't know why I couldn't wrap my head around it for a second. I just heard torture and my brain was like, no.
No, I feel like that would, I don't know. I feel like that's on both sides. Again, I could be speaking out of my ass. Please don't come at me if I'm completely wrong.
Yeah, we're learning.
We're moving on to, because I just needed to talk about that to say that Stokely was a prominent member of this organization.
I see.
Right? So Miriam was a big, like Miriam marrying him, that was a really big deal.
Yeah.
For a few different reasons. So one, it doubled down on her commitment to Black activism.
Right.
B,
it's in the family now.
Yes. B, her music was already political as hell. So it was a public statement of unity between anti-apartheid movements and the Black Panther Party.
Right.
It represented a lot of that. And it turned Miriam from a well-spoken and angelic voice against state-approved racism into a crazy, extremist Black Panther herself. Because she was married to one,
She
right?
was a mob wife.
Basically, yeah.
In their
They
eyes.
turned her into that, yes. Her record deals were canceled.
My God.
She lost a lot of popularity
She got
among white crowds.
canceled.
Yeah. She did try to clarify in interviews that her marriage was about love and not politics, and that
Right.
who she married should not affect the view of who she was.
Right. That's just common sense to me.
It's not common sense to everyone. You'd be
Yeah,
surprised
I know.
at how many people treat someone as the enemy because their partner is
Yeah.
the perceived enemy.
Yeah.
But it was too late. The damage had already been done, and because of that decreased press attention, her message didn't get out. Basically, they were already kind of canceling her in
Yeah.
the press,
Yeah.
and so it wasn't like those interviews were actually going anywhere.
Right.
People weren't listening
Because they were like, oh, God, it's her.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were already tuning out. They were like, "Oh, she married him. Now she's just trying to defend her own actions." Heh.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah. I'm not going to give her any.
She was just a crazy extremist, like her crazy husband.
Uh-oh.
The CIA started following her.
Obviously.
The FBI put her under surveillance.
Of course.
They put microphones in her apartment.
Absolutely they did. I assumed as much.
Yeah. They wanted
a free concert.
one end to this. That
Yeah.
was it. They wanted this one specific ending. That's what they're going to get.
Yeah.
And if they want evidence, they're going to find it.
Right. Or craft it.
So conveniently enough for the U.S. government, eventually Stokely and Miriam went on vacation.
Oh, so now they can raid the house?
They took a holiday to the Bahamas,
Okay.
and when they tried to return,
Uh-oh.
Miriam's visa was refused.
No.
She was denied entry into the country.
What about Stokely?
I think Stokely was also denied entry.
Ah.
Quote, "I'd already lived in exile for 10 years, and the world is free, even if some of the countries in it aren't. So I packed my bags and left."
All right.
They moved to Stokely's home country of Guinea, where she settled in and made friends for the next 15 years.
Okay.
Stokely changed his name to Kwame Ture.
All right.
Their companions were people like the president and first lady of Guinea
Woo.
and the deposed president of Ghana.
All right. Big names.
Big names. Miriam continued to sing, and as time went on, she added more songs directly critical of other governments. And in 1970, she released Lumumba, which was written by both Miriam and Bongi. It spoke of the former prime minister of the Congo who had been assassinated.
Oh.
So Bongi's back.
Bongi, and they wrote a song together.
Yes, I'm going to play it for you.
All right. Bingy Bongi.
Bingy Bongi.
I love that.
Soul and mind. Each day brings more joy. That's mine and more. I named him after the great man. Yeah.
I know this is not the thing to pay attention to, but this is a great West Coast step.
A West Coast step.
Yeah.
Oh, a type of dance.
1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6, 7.
Yeah, I see it.
So fucking good. It's got that swing too.
Yeah, I know.
man.
I'm sitting here like I clean the house and dance around.
Yes,
to it.
I would be dancing so hard to this.
That'd be my risky business song.
Which is like probably the wrong thing to focus on, but also
right.
it does make you want to listen to it more and more and more.
True. Get that message.
It's that pumped up kick song where it's like it's a
beat
depressing as
doesn't-
hell
yeah.
song, but that beat is catchy and it makes you want to listen to it again.
Yeah.
So the Lumumba was basically about that prime minister who had been
Okay.
assassinated of the same name. The president of Guinea, Ahmed Sékou Touré, he had this idea of, again, if I'm mispronouncing all of this shit, I'm very sorry. He had this idea of creating a new style of African music. Not only did he want to invest in artists, he offered to pay them the national minimum wage if they practiced and honed their skills for several hours a day. Like if you come and you're working at your skill and you are getting better and you are creating art for and music and all of this shit for this for the nation, we'll pay you a federal minimum wage.
Oh, wow.
At that point, it wasn't a big living, but that's a big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
that's state-sponsored creativity time.
Right.
How fucking awesome.
Depends how much minimum wage is.
At that point, it was like kind of a livable.
It was-
I don't want to speak for that. I guess
Yes,
I want to
we
say
would
I think they were
think
trying.
maybe
It was
that
a
was
young
helpful.
nation. It was probably not super rich, so I don't know. The record label that he created, Xylophone, was the first record label to receive government funding since declaring independence.
Okay.
And of course, they asked Miriam to record with their label.
Right, as one does.
And she said, "I've never seen a country that did what Sékou Touré did for artists."
Aw.
So she really did admire his efforts. So I don't think it really was like a big living, but I don't think it was a small one either. I think
Yeah.
it gave artists the ability to actually make a living doing what they
Fantastic.
love to do.
Doesn't that sound like reasonable?
Amazing, yeah. So remember back a ways when Miriam sang at the inaugural ball for
Yeah.
Ethiopia?
Yeah.
All right, so as more countries in Africa were able to break free of British colonial rule, Miriam was invited over and over and over to sing in celebration.
Wow.
As all of these countries declared independence. So over the course of and they also they were thankful for this. So over the course of her life, she'd be issued 9 different passports.
Wow.
And 10 different nations granted her honorary citizenship status.
Oh.
If you can't have South Africa, we'll have you.
Yeah, it's just like, man, South Africa, and it's bullshit because of all the racist white people settling in and claiming dominance. And she got pushed out and exiled from her own home, separated from her daughter for a long time. And, all these other countries are like, we love you.
Yeah, we'll take you.
Yeah, you sing to us and we love you back.
No, I think it's great.
Ah.
She performed festivals, concerts, benefits, and in 1975 she was I'm sure
I'm joking,
birthdays, a birthday or two. And in 1975 she was even appointed Guinea's delegate in the UN.
Wow.
She had been so many times that they were just like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, you can literally go vouch for us.
And that same year she once again advocated for the liberation of South Africa from apartheid.
Yeah. Can't let that one go.
Her music was essentially boycotted in the US at this
Really?
point. Because, the FBI, the CIA, they were all on her.
Yeah.
They thought that she was a Black Panther and she must be spouting off that propaganda.
God.
So,
Imagine how helpful her music could have been.
it was helpful to a lot of people while they were listening to it. And it was honestly, it's really interesting to think about someone who she kind of came in with a splash to a certain crowd and really spoke out on things, gained a lot of popularity, and then was kind of forced out
Yeah.
in a short amount of time. This is within 8 or 9 years. She comes into the country, makes it kind of big for what she was doing,
Yeah.
and then is forced out and is and now her songs are nowhere.
How
It's not like she's on an oldies station in the
Right.
in the 70s.
No, she was pushed out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Pushed
And
out.
it's not even a
banned.
flash in the pan. It was a like a growing career that then just got cut off right in
Yeah.
the middle of it. But in Africa and Europe, Miriam was still a really major voice in African music.
Yeah.
And so in 1974, Bongi Makeba actually performed a song called Malcolm X. She became a singer like her
Ooh.
mother.
All right.
She was a well-known and loved voice as well, following in her mother's footsteps into music with a political message. It's unknown when the name stuck, but Bongi coined Miriam Mama Afrika, and the name stuck.
Yeah.
So from then on, she was Mama Africa.
Oh, wow. What a nickname. Beep, 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 beep. News, news, news. Everybody look out. It's news.
News in South Africa. So in 1976, when South Africa made Afrikaans the national language at black schools, there was an uprising in Soweto. 15 to 20,000 students protested this change, and in response, what do you think they did?
Massacre?
Oh yeah, police opened fire.
Oh,
For sure.
I was so worried I'd be wrong.
You were wrong, but
But
no.
I
But
didn't wanna
thank
be right.
goodness you were right about so much murder.
Yeah, thanks. You're welcome.
Hundreds were killed in this
God!
protest. Hundreds were killed in this protest, and more than 1,000 were injured.
I don't want to be right.
You were so right. Good job, Hannah.
No! I
Oh,
don't want to be
God.
right about this.
Since Miriam was...
Jesus.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm just shocked. That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of people dying.
Damn.
Since Miriam was still a singer involved in the jazz scene, when her ex-husband Hugh Masekela wrote Soweto Blues, Miriam was more than happy to help with the song.
Right.
She actually still worked with Hugh. I don't know why.
Hey, look,
But
if
they
you're
were
on
still-
good
they were
terms
both
with your ex,
musicians,
more
yeah.
power to you.
They were both musicians. I think they worked well together.
That's excellent. I love a mature ex situation.
They worked on it together, and forever after, it was one of her concert staples, just like the Kong Kotwane.
There you go. I didn't want to call it
and
the click song, but
the what was the other one? Pata Pata? No. Malaika. Malaika was another one of her concert staples. So basically all these lyrics, they called it searingly righteous lyrics that cut to the bone.
wow.
We're going to listen to some of it.
Okay. Watch out, everybody. Cutting lyrics.
Refusing to comply, they sent an answer. That's when the policeman came to the rescue. The children were flying, bullets dying, all the mothers screaming and crying.
Well, me bobbing my head seems inappropriate now.
Working in the city.
No more inappropriate than you being happy that you were right about murder.
I know.
Publicity just
I mean, the beat. Here we go again.
It's so sad, and it's also such a fucking bop.
I know. I'm over
It's
here.
so sad.
I don't know if you heard me, but at one point I'm like, the kids died. I'm like, I'm sorry. It just is such a weird
We're not-
juxtaposition.
We're not laughing about children
No,
dying.
we are not.
Oh
but
my
like,
God.
it's just as soon as I didn't I hear the word slaughter. I mean,
Yes, it was a
it's
whole
just-
thing about
yeah.
about the children being told they can't speak their native languages anymore.
Yeah.
and then they just get slaughtered.
oh god,
It's terrible. Oh my God.
Oh, that song belongs in Doctor Strangelove.
Woof. Searingly righteous lyrics that cut to the bone.
Very.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Indeed.
I have to agree with that.
Holy fuck. So after a few years, life with Kwame was pretty strained.
I can
So
imagine a lot of stressors on that relationship.
Oh yeah, they're both exiled from two different well, no, he got to go back to his homeland, but
that sucks.
they both got exiled from the US, basically.
Yeah.
So they separated in the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And
Do what's right for you, boo.
somehow this last bit of her life is almost busier than the rest of it.
Oh.
So a few years, that was her life. She sang, she toured, she was an international activist, she was a grandmother. Bongi. Bongi had 3 children, and they lived in Guinea with Miriam, and they followed her to Guinea after her exile from the U.S. They were like, let's go join Grandma. I don't know what they called her. Probably Mama Africa. I don't know.
Grandmama.
But she would go and join her mother on stage. She would come and sing
wonderful.
with her. She also joined Miriam on tours, and it was while she was traveling on one of these tours with Miriam that her youngest son, Temba, died.
No.
Yeah.
No.
There's not really a reason given. The kid just died.
You already knew I was going to ask.
I know. But Bongi wasn't around for the death, and that really strained her relationship with Miriam.
Yeah.
Like, she kind of...
Yeah, because like I should
There's
have
feelings
been
there.
there.
Yeah.
How can a mom not blame herself, even though it is not her fault?
Tensions rose a little, but Bongi still would join Miriam on some of the tours, and just not all of them. I think she just spent more time with her kids.
Makes sense, and I don't blame her for it.
Miriam and Kwame got officially divorced in the late 70s.
Oh, okay.
Which was great because she got married again in 1981.
I mean, get it.
Well, yeah, get it, because she got married to an airline exec named Badget Ba.
Intriguing.
Right. So in 1984, the president of Guinea, who had welcomed her so warmly to the newly independent nation, he died.
Oh, okay.
He dead.
Oh.
So after his death, things got pretty bad.
Oh, no.
It was probably bad for a while leading up to his death, but they got worse after he died because there was a military coup that happened like very shortly following his death. So to compound this unease, Bongi got pregnant.
Oh.
And in 1985, both she and her baby died in childbirth.
No.
Yeah. So Miriam outlived her only daughter.
Oh.
It was absolutely devastating, and the care of Bongi's 2 remaining children was left to Miriam. Yeah. The family moved to Belgium, where they settled, and Miriam resumed her singing career. It was safer there than staying in Guinea at that point because of the coup.
Yeah.
She also worked with a journalist to write and publish her autobiography.
Yeah, I would if I were her.
It was titled Makeba, My Story.
All right.
She spoke of her experiences in South Africa, apartheid, consumerism, and commodification.
Oh, that's so relevant.
Oh, yeah. And I will remind you, this was 1986.
Yeah.
Ish. This is when her autobiography comes out, is the mid-late 80s.
Well, it makes sense that consumerism was on her mind, because that was
sure.
taken the fuck off.
She was introduced to a man named Paul Simon.
Hey!
And the two worked together on a thing called the Graceland Tour.
Woo!
Now, the Graceland thing was kind of controversial. She went on this amazingly successful tour. She came on stage with Paul Simon for a few different shows in the segment of the tour called Graceland, the African Concert.
Okay.
Miriam even broke her leg, and she came on stage in a wheelchair to perform.
Oh.
But this was controversial. This was a controversial thing because Paul recorded the album in South Africa.
Oh.
Not only had South Africa boycotted Miriam and her music, but she had intentionally boycotted businesses and people who did business in South Africa. They boycotted each other.
Yeah.
And now she's there recording on this album in South Africa.
Yeah.
The explanation was pretty simple, and basically Makeba endorsed the idea that her participation was contravening her previous statement.
Okay.
People can change.
Oh,
They can evolve. And Mama Africa was a hit again because, people can change. Great, people grow. So soon after Graceland came out, Warner Brothers approached Miriam and signed her on for an album.
Mm.
This one was dedicated to Healing Chance and was named in honor of her mother, who was herself a healer. Remember, she went to Swaziland to train. So this album was called Sangoma, and it came out in 1988. That same year, she went to London and performed at the 70th birthday celebration for Nelson Mandela.
Excellent.
At that point, the anti-apartheid leader was in prison, and so at Wembley Stadium, there was a massive tribute concert in his honor, and it was broadcast to 600 million over 67 nations.
Wow.
It was like the Live Aid kind of level concert, but for Nelson Mandela's
worldwide
birthday.
numbers.
Yes. In the U.S., Fox heavily censored the concert.
Of course they did.
Freedom of speech, my foot.
Yeah, I know. They don't know the First Amendment if it smacked them in the ass.
And it has spanked them quite handily in the
Yeah, I
ass
know.
already, quite a few times, and they have never learned their lesson. Actually, I think they just like it, Spank me harder.
Masochists.
Anyway, not by the efforts of any one person, but of thousands and millions over decades, and the voting in of the, quote, right, quote, white guy, South Africa finally got its fucking act together.
Hopefully.
All right. In 1989, Frederick Willem de Klerk was voted into office as president.
De Klerk.
Now, F.W. de Klerk
De Klerk.
is a very divisive character.
Oh, fuck.
He was a career government man. He was working within and profiting wildly from the system of apartheid.
Oh, no.
It would be like saying that a high-ranking Nazi wasn't quite as much of a Nazi as Hitler was, so he was a better Nazi.
Nope.
Nelson Mandela said in Long Walk to Freedom, quote, "Despite his seemingly progressive actions, Mr. de Klerk was by no means the great emancipator. He did not make any of his reforms with the intention of putting himself out of power. He made them for precisely the opposite reason, to ensure power for the Afrikaner in a new dispensation."
Oh, no.
End quote. The man is called a coward, a traitor, a crook, and acted over and over and over in self-interest. And dismantling was more public pressure and an attempt to get him to stay in power, or at least continue the white minority rule. So basically, he's a piece of shit, but he's a piece of shit that ended the laws and got Nelson Mandela out of prison. And he should have been charged with numerous crimes, but because he did this big thing,
Yeah.
he got out of it. Even now, he's a controversial subject, and his name is scraped off of some of the foundations.
He's a piece of shit that got backed into a corner.
Right. So, but he ended stuff. And so they let Nelson go in 1990, and he called up his old friend Miriam, and he invited her down for a visit.
Ah.
So she was able to get a 6-day visa with her French passport, and when she stepped foot on South African soil for the first time in 30 years, there was celebration, interviews, meetings, and another South African singer, Brenda Fassie, performed for Makeba. She continued her career, releasing an album in 1991 with Nina Simone, Dizzy Gillespie, and Hugh. It was a glorious mashup of jazz, African folk, pop, R&B, and people fucking loved it.
Yeah.
She went on tour with Dizzy around the world. She goes on The Cosby Show. She played the mother of the title character in the movie Serafina. That's a movie about the Soweto uprising.
Yeah, but she was on the Cosby
She was on
Show?
The Cosby Show. She was like one of those guest spot
Wow.
character people. Yeah. She's still involved with the UN. She works the Food and Agriculture Org of the UN. She releases another album in 2000.
Oh, wow.
Back in New York this time because suddenly the US doesn't have as much of a problem
Yeah.
with her. Her album Homeland, which was what she recorded in New York, it was even nominated for a Grammy.
Hey, get that second Grammy, girl.
She worked with Graça Machel Mandela on advocating for people who had handicaps, HIV/AIDS, and for child soldiers.
All right.
She established a center for girls. She appeared in another film, Amandla.
Okay.
That's the Xhosa and Zulu word for power.
Okay.
It was a musical documentary that explored the struggles of apartheid through music.
All right. I'll have to see that too.
About 18 years after her first autobiography, she published a second one, Makeba, the Miriam Makeba story. She's very
Okay.
creative with these titles.
Yeah, I
huh?
was going to say they kind of
Her albums are not creative either. Like, as
Yeah.
beautiful as her music is, her titles are really lacking here.
Yeah, she put all the effort into the product, which I get.
That came out in 2004. The next year, she decided she wanted to retire. So she announced her retirement by going on a farewell tour.
Oh, she's
Let's say goodbye to the
got
whole
a work
world.
ethic like Tom Brady.
Right? That's what I was thinking. So the tour was a massive success again, and by this time her grandchildren were both grown and musicians themselves, so they're occasionally joining her on stage. It's
Yeah.
like a whole family thing now.
All right.
She had osteoarthritis, and she still
Oh,
performed a lot. She dealt with the pain and just basically worked through it.
Girl.
After her retirement, she still sang at concerts. And I think at a certain point, when you have the kind of fame that she has, like, and the kind of different connections, it's almost impossible to just really truly retire, because someone's calling you up and like,
Yeah.
hey, I got a party, or hey, there's a benefit that you would like for a cause that you're really into.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it's so easy to say yes to those things,
Right. So she liked to keep busy.
So one of those things, one of those causes, in 2008, she was invited to one such show,
Uh-huh.
a concert showing support for writer Robert Saviano. He had taken a stand against a mob family in Italy, and so they had put together a benefit for him at Castel Volturno.
Okay.
And as Miriam sang her most popular songs, she strained herself, and she finished Pata Pata, left the stage, and collapsed.
Oh, no.
Miriam was rushed to a nearby clinic where they learned two things. She had suffered a heart attack, and she hadn't survived it.
Oh.
It was devastating, but the woman was 76 years old.
Right, yeah.
mean-
yeah, it's not, makes
And
sense.
she traveled the world.
Yeah, she did not
was
stop.
on an international trip.
Her body was tired.
She was called Mama Afrika, the Empress of African Song, the Queen of South African Music. She released over 30 albums, singing with jazz greats, and literally helped shape the sound of soul music forever.
Wow.
Another little thing was she really rocked this short hair afro style, and it
All
is
right.
lauded as an iconic fashion choice for Black women. But it was based on the fact that when she was growing up, Black women were often compelled,
Quote unquote.
forced,
Forced.
to cut their locks and keep their hair short. Instead of being able to have braids that would protect their longer hair,
Yeah.
they had to keep it short because people just didn't like the way that the braids looked.
Which I don't get, but
I know.
that's me. I think the braids are beautiful.
I do too, but she just kept her short hair
Yeah.
even after she was able to grow it again.
I mean-
and now they call it female empowerment. Now they're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's such a feminist cut, when it was
It
like,
started out.
no, that's just that's what she was always forced to have.
Right. But I do think, you wonder, like, maybe it was also, like, a little cooler.
Oh, I'm sure.
Maybe
Yeah, I've had
temperature-wise.
short haircuts before, and it is a lot cooler.
Yeah. But, oh,
That is
she
the very
did.
long and adventurous life of Miriam Makeba.
She's amazing.
I know.
Oh, my God. A voice of an angel.
I don't even remember how I heard of her.
There's a song that I didn't know what it meant. But it's I'll pull it out. And we can always cut this out. This is a big issue, but it became
you're fine.
popular again on Spotify or on TikTok.
What song?
This Makeba
Mm.
or Makeba.
Wait, she's on the timelines now?
No.
Oh.
It's a song by someone named Jane.
I've heard this song.
But she says Mama Afrika and everything.
Oh, it's about
her.
It's about Mama Afrika then.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I love a song.
It is called Makeba, so yeah.
Yeah, it came out. I found out about it in college. And then it came up on TikTok, I guess, like last year
Oh,
or
it's
something.
funky. It does make my body dance for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
for sure.
Her music absolutely makes my body dance.
Oh, we didn't play the breathing song.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, okay. So this lyric that we just heard is, I want to hear your breath beat next to
Here.
my soul.
Yeah, I'll
and I
look at the
didn't
lyrics.
think about this, but I was meaning to play this at some point during the episode. She has this really cool breathing song, and it is so cool.
Yeah, I want to hear your breath just next to my soul. I want to feel oppressed
Also,
without any rest.
I want you to kind of see if you can watch this video, because this is a really good example of her stage presence.
That's so cool. Imagine seeing this live.
Right? She's like staring into the soul of the
She
audiences. I mean, she's got really
does.
intense eye contact.
A lot of engagement with
She
her
has
audience.
so much stage presence and engagement with her audience. Yeah. Oof. Such a good artist. Anyway, that is Miriam Makeba, the very adventurous life of an awesome singer and an activist who,
Yeah.
I mean, did not individually cause, obviously, but like did help affect change in South African, you know, in the history of South Africa forever.
Here's a lyric from Jane that also works because, like, just right there.
Oh, yeah.
It says, nobody can beat the Mama Afrika. You follow the beat that she's going to give ya.
Uh-huh.
Only her smile can all make it go. The sufferation of 1,000 more. And then it goes back into, ooh, Mama Makeba, make my body dance for you.
But she has a mesmerizing smile, too.
I
When
saw it
she
in that
smiles,
video.
you're like, oh.
I know. There are some people that just...
She really
smile.
just, she just has a glowing presence. She
Yeah.
is such an enchanting, entrancing person. Just watching her even in
Charismatic,
interview,
yeah.
charismatic when she's
Charismatic.
giving interviews and stuff. The way that she speaks, her cadence, the way that she interacts with people, it's just very interesting.
Yeah. I'll make a playlist. That's because that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be like working on a few little design
it's so good.
projects
Yeah,
later.
I would suggest, I guess, again for the second time, if you have not listened to this woman's discography yet, please go do that. I cannot recommend it highly enough. Incredible singer.
Absolutely. I'll be doing that. Well, guys, it's been another podcast.
Yes,
If you want to learn more about us or go find our socials, we are on Facebook, Well Behaved Women Podcast. We have a page on Instagram and Threads at Well Behaved Women Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We are on Reddit, Well Behaved Women Podcast, or is it Well Behaved Women Pod?
For Reddit,
Yeah,
podcast.
And then we are on TikTok. I'm liking the videos, at least 5 to 10 every day because I'm always on TikTok. So we're on there as well. We'll be posting as soon as I can figure out how to make animated videos.
Yes. All right.
Or even just non-animated, just videos.
Just videos. We're kind of playing around with the little trailer things where we just put little clips out.
We are.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's all coming.
That's all coming. We got things to come.
We got stuff.
Guys, we love you. All 10 of you. Maybe 15 on a good week.
Yay!
All right, guys, it's been a fucking podcast.
Bye.
Bye.